It's been a very to go to some tour with a national youth organizer in Cape Coast. We just returned this morning. I'm happy to be here. Contribute to
which national youth organizer, please?
The NPP National Youth
Organizer.
Yes.
Right.
I'm happy to be here this morning to also share my opinion on trending news and then news that made headlines during the week.
Well, so surely by now we know the news that's been making headlines. We can't go past the LGBT conversation. We can also not go past the new taxes bills that have been passed into law, obviously. The debate is not even about the bills that have been passed into law, but how we arrived at the numbers, considering the fact that an MP had an accident headed to Parliament to vote, and what the Speaker looked out for in counting him as part to get the numbers. And also a very important conversation that has raised, I would have thought that people will be happy about, but now people are actually wondering, why did we have to decriminalize the attempted suicide? First, you know that if you committed suicide, it's okay, you're gone. The state won't have to come after you. But if you're attempted and you didn't succeed, then you're going to be sentenced to not more to the judge's discretion, at least 3 years imprisonment. And so now it's been decriminalized. Let's work our way. I know that people want us to start with the LGBT conversation, but let's start with that one, because that has already been, at least it's been passed into law before we go to the bills that are in consideration stage. So let's talk about the attempted suicide and the decriminalization of it. Some have said that, no way. Yes, it is a mental situation, and so if a person attempted suicide and they were arrested, they should be taken through the prosecutional, procedure, like a criminal, and even go to serve a certain jail term in prison. They should rather go to the mental health facility and seek help. People have also said that this would open the floodgates, because at what point do you know whether somebody is really mentally unhealthy or okay to want to attempt suicide, and at what point do you know that this person really is okay? But let me go to a gentleman who is new to me. Yeah.
Jimmy.
Jimmy, so that she can take a bite on it. What's your position? Are you for the decriminalization? It's done already, but anyway, are you happy about it, or you have your reservations about it?
Well, I may say that I'm highly excited about the decriminalization of the suicide if someone attempts it and the person is not gone by his alive. The reality is that there are a lot of things that may influence one to try to take his or her life. And if that person is prosecuted, it would even give the person the opportunity to really provide information to researchers to really understand what exactly is triggering this suicide in our society, because there are reasons behind it. There are reasons why one will attempt to take his or her life. So if we are able to know the major trends of what exactly may cause these suicides or the rapid nature of suicide in our society, then we can provide actions to make sure that we can curtail it and prevent those things from happening, so that people would not frequently try to take their life. So first of all, it provides a clear opportunity for research, as the person would not be prosecuted. It gives the person the free mind to be able to engage with researchers and other people who understand the arena properly, so that going forward, we can know how to handle people who, so that they may not lead into attempting to take their life. Okay. So I think it's a straight way forward. It is good that we've been able to clear these criminalized aspects of suicide in Ghana, and it will provide more opportunity for us to understand the arena properly. Okay. In addition to that too, it reconscientizes us as a society that we need to be caring towards our brothers and people within us. If you see that somebody is not in the usual mood you know the person to be, try as much as possible engage and try as much as possible to understand. Sometimes we wake up, we see our neighbors, say hi, and we move on. But clearly you could see that at that point your neighbor is not in that good mood of responding or how the person usually acts towards you. So let's try as much as possible to show and all that. And if somebody attempts suicide and the person is taken to a rehabilitation center, reoriented and brought to society, please let's love them, let's care for them, and let's see them as one who belongs to our society. It is not at that point why we need to be pointing fingers and all that to people. It can happen to anybody. There are things that can go beyond your thinking, and you may reach that point. However, we pray that nobody would attempt to take their life, whatever the situation may be.
Affectionately spoken. I say it was like a solidarity message.
Yeah,
very
so
beautiful. Yeah.
Akins, are you all for it?
I think that my brother has hit the nail right on the head. For me, I was of the opinion that why do we prosecute everything in this country? So in our prisons, which are already congested, we have people who are there being fed by the state because they attempted, taking their lives. Who in this world, in the normal right thinking, would say that looking at how beautiful life is, how beautiful God has given us life, would say that I'm going to take my life? I mean, it should clearly tell us that people go through some emotional and psychological stress. And those should be the sources that we should tackle, not that we are prosecuting you. And so for me, this is a good news to Ghana. And I would admonish the government and parliament to also encourage laws and our state institutions that deal with, these rehabs, so that it will be more effective. Because at the end of the day, once you take out the law and you don't tackle the source of ensuring that there are more psychological training and emotional, peer tutors, because you see, people go through a lot. I mean, when you come to University of Ghana, where I completed my degree, I was a student leader, and so sometimes I hear some of these things. Some of the reasons that people will give you and the kind of actions they want to take, sometimes it will marvel you. So we should rather ensure that we train people who would take our citizens through some psychological and emotional training, which will let them have some essence of owning life. And telling them that, see, if you are not dead, you don't know what you will gain. There are some people who go through one or two problems, whether financial or emotional or whatever, and they feel that, see, I have to end my life. We should be able to train our people and then educate them, especially our young ones. At age 25, 26, 27, you have not built a house. Things are not going well with you, so you want to end your life. You want to end things that people took 40, 50 years to end. But you see, our young ones do not know these things. But if we're able to educate them and then let them understand the processes and the stages in life, I think that these attempted suicide cases that we are having would reduce drastically. So it's a good news for Ghana and good news for us as a country.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to play the devil's advocate, but listening to some of the
I've got a few
comments.
questions.
You've got regarding
yeah, of course, because then how are we able to separate one that genuinely has got a mental issue, so that we're sending them for rehabilitation, and those that have that belief, the theories that have said that these things sometimes are underpinned by religious beliefs and cultural beliefs. Okay, suicide bombers, people that attempt to take their life because they believe in a higher gain. Okay, we also have heard cases of people trying to run away from the real law. There's a popular brand in this country that had somebody who was occupying a very celebrated position, who had embezzled funds, and because the person could foresee the punishment he could go through, decided to take their life. We all are aware that by the time you're 6 months as a person in this country, you belong to the state. Okay, so yes, it's a good thing, but at what point do we know that, it's not everything is not okay with him or her, and so should we go for rehabilitation? And for this person too, is it real rehabilitation that they need? How do we not open the floodgates? Because not everybody that's taking their life is really going through something. Yes, they're going through something, but I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes.
How are we not going to open the floodgates?
You know, you have a point. That is why in my submission I said that, you see, we should strengthen our state institution that deals with some of these things. I would want to believe that there are experts around that when these victims are taken to, they will be able to demystify as to whether or not this person indeed is going through some psychological problems or not. And so the way forward with regards to, you know, this decriminalizing attempted suicide is to strengthen our state institution that deals with rehabs and ensure that there are more of these rehab centers and these aspects that will be able to take victims through, you know, certain processes that they have to be able to identify that this person indeed is going through some psychological problems or not. Until then, for me, we cannot lump all together and say that because there are certain few segments of these individuals who want to take advantage of everything in this life, whatever thing you do, people would want to outsmart or play or take advantage of that. But it doesn't mean that because of those few people, we should lump all of them together and say that, okay, because of that, we are putting in stringent laws. That is why I said that nobody in his right thinking sense would say that I'm going to take my life.
No, but I have a higher gain. But higher gains. Godwin, have you not heard this? Higher gains, if you die, you get some benefits.
Yeah, but I like to also think that even with that, those religious beliefs that we were talking about, for a person to get to that point where you're influenced to say that, oh, I'm going to achieve something higher, you've been brainwashed. Of course, you've gotten to definitely for you to think
somebody's religion. How do you say
that's why I'm saying that it's personal. It's personal. I mean, we can sit back and judge it that way, but you've gotten to the point where he won't be able to tell that I've been brainwashed. Of course, the person cannot tell. So then that's where your question of is this person's grounds for taking their lives good or bad? But you've gotten to the point as a state, as a country, we are weighing the options and saying that even if it's for religious beliefs, we know that for a person to get to that point in their religion where they believe that I have to take my life, it's not right. So we have to decriminalize. Am I confusing myself?
Decriminalize it. Correct.
Yeah. So religious grounds or not, cultural grounds. You know, I was looking at, okay, why did our forebears put that law in place? Why did they criminalize taking your life? They must have a good grounds. Was it to discourage people from doing it? And so far, I don't know the statistics. So far, what has it been like when it was criminalized? The people who go to jail, do they come back feeling better? Do they realize that I shouldn't have taken my life? What has it achieved for us? I guess it's not really achieved much. That's why we've come to the point where we think that, no, you know what? Let's decriminalize this.
I think that the fundamental reason for even people going to jail is reformation and rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation,
that's the ultimate, that to reform you. If you haven't committed a first-degree felony where your punishment is death, then all the others is to reform you and also restrain and restrict you from doing that.
Then criminalizing is not bad at all.
So when it's believed that in jail you're restricted, you don't have access to the things that will make you want to kill.
Take your life.
You don't have access to this, you don't have access to knife, poison, and all of these things. Then we now reform and renew you before we reinstate or reintegrate you into society. But as Akins have said, do we have the facilities to the thing is, when you show up in front of a judge in a court, he's not going to kill you. When he tells you to go to jail, it's not that he doesn't like you. He's hoping that you are reformed and renewed. But unfortunately, our facilities, the food, the space, do you really come out reformed? And then the question of whether it's somebody who wants to end their life, what does 3 years mean to them?
For them.
They can come back and still, I mean, so it's the reformation. If we can, and we're choosing between the two centers for reformation and rehabilitation, the mental health facility and the prison, because the thought and idea of prison is very daunting. So if we change it and say, let's restrain you and restrict you in a mental health facility and look at, I think it's quite a good one. We'll look at it and see the progress that will come.
So perhaps, okay, so with this decriminalization, what would it mean? I like to know. Does it mean that if I don't succeed in taking my life, I'll be sent to a rehabilitation center?
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly. So the concept of prison is now taken
out of it.
You know, the society has this whole, what is the name, bad concept about prison. And when one says this person is an ex-convict, how society treats you and all that, that maybe you might not even be a criminal in terms of using gun or robbing a particular space. But once they say you're an ex-convict, it paints a whole picture about you in terms of your employment and all that. So if they say one has been taken to a rehab, it's not something that's too much a harsh statement. Once again, we are all talking about state institutions working effectively and all that. I've said that it is more of an institution working to resolve this particular matter. When you critically look at it, we cannot say, even if you are collecting data on income to do some research work or whatever, there will be people that we call them outliers. Like their income will be so huge that if you add them to the research, you may not even know the poverty level, because that income comes to fill in all the spaces for the poor people. So you take out the outliers and you focus on the major ones. And it is in this situation that we have people who have higher gains for taking their lives, and we cannot say that few outliers, for that reason, we shouldn't focus on the major ones, which are our targets. So we still need to focus on them. But again, institutions working is very relevant. For example, we can critically look at what is being taught by our religious leaders and the form of religions that we have. If there is a state institution that checks this kind of things, and there is generally a meeting between religious leaders, whether Islam, Christian, and all that, and they also clearly understand what is the nature of the situation and what influence someone. I believe that we'll get the right teaching at our religious centers and all that, and it would give us a very higher gain that we need as a country.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
Would it be a good time to go to the next topic?
Yes, should we do the taxes or should we do LGBT?
I think we'll wrap with the taxes because it's been passed anyway. You can only give commentary.
I thought it would touch and go, and then we now focus on that. But looking at our time,
we'll
we
go
should
to
do
the LGBT. It's on the consideration stage, isn't
Yeah.
it? And so we're waiting for debate and all of that. But Akins, take a bite. Have you seen the original, at least except of the original document and what the Attorney General's opinion of it is?
For me, I think that this whole issue about LGBTQWXYZ has already been settled by the Ghanaian people. Our position is emphatic that our values, norms, and culture do not permit us as a people to engage in some of these things. And I am happy that our leaders, by far, have also indicated, in fact, this current president has indicated that not under his watch will we see a law that would encourage these practices be enacted. Yes,
Hasn't Ecuador said that?
No, he has said that. He has said it.
I don't remember hearing him say that.
No,
I've listened to 2 interviews by the president, and he's not been emphatic with his stance.
You see, the president...
There was the Al Jazeera one a couple of years ago that I was so certain that the president did not establish his stance on LGBT. He said that is a conversation going on in our country.
Yes.
And when the time is right, we would know.
But the president, I am saying that... it's a public, knowledge that, viewers can attest to that. He has emphatically said that not under his watch will we see this law passed here in Ghana. In any case, I have said that the Ghanaian people have settled on the matter because some of these things do not. When you read Article 26 of our Constitution, which talks about how our norms and cultures are here in this country, it says that any law or anything that seeks to dehumanize a person, should not be encouraged. And so this matter is already settled. I am only happy that our members of parliament are taking this into. You read the amended, bill and some inputs that the committee that is working on it. It really makes sense, and I think that it should be passed earlier. No, yes, it should be passed
I was
earlier.
confused a bit. You said the president said this law would not be passed.
Under his watch. I'm saying that.
The law that is going to prohibit the activities will not be passed.
No. I'm saying
that's
that.
Why I was,
No. What I said was that the president said that the law that would encourage this gay and homosexuality would not be passed under his watch. That was the point that I was trying to.
Okay.
My position on this matter is that these issues of gay here and there, I mean, I don't even understand why this conversation should even come up. That my fellow man.
Okay. Jimmy.
No, I'm making a point.
Jimmy.
Before Jimmy comes in, let's stay with Akins a little more, because he said he started his argument on the Ghanaian culture. And I like to acknowledge how sovereign our country is, and so you're guided by your own laws and all. However, we also sit in a bigger picture. Okay, you're guided. We can't allow countries to say that because our culture is like this. You know, some cultures, they genocide, but because of international law, you cannot commit genocide. But it's their culture. They believe. Do you understand? So do you think that if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for how you feel about it, you just looked at two of them, their faces, and you said, if it wasn't for this, doesn't matter. Wouldn't matter what your culture is.
Your culture have been, okay, as a person of exercise and then going consents. But your identity as a culture identify you. And you know, one lawyer, I'm a lawyer for me, made a very simple argument that you see, our culture of polygamy, right, is being prohibited by the whites or the Western world. So why is it that for them, they believe that their identity should not allow a man to marry more than one? But they can impose on us their culture or their identity. For me, it's a non-starter.
Again, before Jimmy comes in, the law on polygamy. If you married according to your culture, which is a traditional marriage, there's no prohibition. So if you adopted the international law, then you're prohibited. Wouldn't it be the same way for the men who say that I know my culture, but I want to practice a law that is international, not the one that is local. So I'm not going to hold a local man and go to my chief's palace for them to bless the marriage by pouring libation. But I'm going to marry a man or get married to my laptop by going to court.
Let me chip in something, please, if I may. I agree with what Akin said when it comes to culture and identity, because we live in a global village. Yet when you go to Russia, when you go to China, Saudi Arabia, there are countries when you go to, they have strict cultures and you have to abide by them. And they sit within the global space we're talking about. So culture is allowed. However, what I want to add to what MFA is saying is that, do you think that culture is affected or influenced by times?
Or even laws? You know what? Think about that question. Jimmy, take a bite.
Okay, please, thank you.
Do you understand the question?
I get you.
Culture and laws, as you may have heard, they have described the law as a living organism where it grows, so that it allows to satisfy the current needs of people. Okay, so if in the past men were not attracted to men, but today men are attracted to men, or women are attracted to women,
so
the law here is a living organism. Shall we water it so that the law will grow? Think about it, but we'll come to Jimmy.
Okay. So please, thank you very much. I think that this particular matter is critical to the development of this country. It is very critical because, one, it positions us as a domestic people, the trajectory we want to move as a people, and again, it positions us in the global world, how we will be viewed. So this is a very critical matter that we have to dissect in a very open and flexible opinion. The very first thing is that our culture as a people and the norms I agreed with and the values that was instilled in me as a person does not permit for me to show affection towards my male counterpart in terms of sexual affection.
The fact that you can't even look at them, not your way.
Well, and to be frank, my religious belief, and as a Presbyterian, and the teachings from my children's service through my JY and YPG does not
Youth
give
for
me
Jesus.
that. Yes, does not give me that opportunity to even think of something like that.
Okay.
In addition to that, the chiefs of this land are the custodians of our culture, and they are custodians of our value system. Mm-hmm. The chiefs in our community are clearly against this act. I don't think that this act should be an act that should even be encouraged in any space. It is true that culture evolves, but then again, we had a lot of culture systems like tribal marks, so many things that over time it has wept off. We take into consideration the impact of that culture on our development, on our health system, and all that before we consider whether we want to wipe away this culture or not. Female genital mutilation was one of the things that was causing a lot of health issues in this country. The state considered it that, no, this have a very huge implication on our health care. So now government has to spend more in terms of health care, which we could have do the preventive aspect of it before we even go to the curative aspect where we have to care in terms of fund. We saw tribal marks and how people bleed and the damages it caused and all that. The state saw the difficulty it had and the implication it have on our financial spending when it comes to health. Health is one of the second largest component we spend on as a country. So education first, health is the second. So it is critical. Experts have shown that indeed if they say that HIV and related diseases are caused by this. Are we ready? Are we in the financial space to be able to commit more to this health spending?
Oh, can you not encourage them to use protections and also stick to same
just
sex?
as encourage among the straight
yeah.
It has become difficult now in terms of encouraging people to use condoms and all that. How have we achieved it?
I think because lawyer before Amini actually made a sound argument on the fact that people who practice same-sex marriage, in I don't want to say
LGBT.
have a higher number of health issues and how to reintegrate them back into, and for their own data collection of what they have said, they do not enjoy it. But land, let me ask my question. Okay,
so in addition to that, I think last week or perhaps in 2021, did they conduct the research? That research clearly shows that Ghanaians were about 97% tolerance of people of ethnic groups, the different ethnic groups they are willing to settle. They were about 73% tolerance of migrants and all that. But we had a 7% tolerance of homosexuality and same-sex marriage and transgender and all those related things. It's clearly shown the position of Ghanaians. And everybody who had been elected into any political office must represent the interests of the Ghanaian people. So your statement and your comment must represent that of the Ghanaian people. I say that laws are a reflection of society. So the laws that we make must reflect the values of our society and our culture system as a person. We need not to lose our identity. We need not to lose our values just because somebody is elsewhere in the Western world who feels that this should be the practice and this should be the standard. So we must go by it. And let me add that if the passing of this bill into law is what is going to make Ghana and going to make our leaders reason as a people and reason that we can generate revenue domestic, we can focus on producing domestic and avoid these international funds whose strings are attached to, then let's pass the law. so that every leader work within the space, because you know when you go out there, you will not get the fund because you are not one who practice this particular act, so they won't support. If this law would reduce our dependency on donor funds and chasing funds out there and loans, and will make us reason as a person, then it is quick. Let's do it so that we live within our space and our means. And
are we ready? Are we ready to be on our own without the support of these people?
You know, it is not everything that actually is dependent on whether we subscribe to the law or not. They also have interest. We trade. We do so many things. There are certain free funds that they will give to you, which these trains may be attached to. We will lessen them, and then we can live within our means, so that we will not have these pressures.
Interesting.
So two things.
To answer my question.
Yeah, so about the culture bit, whether culture evolves and all of that. You see, how old is UK's democracy?
Yes.
Way longer than ours. But when the Queen died, you saw some culture that held centuries that they were still practicing. Why haven't they changed those cultures? Because we are in modern times and things are changing. Why are they still holding on to those cultures? Because they see it as identifying who they are as a monarch state. And so why should an act that clearly is an infringement, or it doesn't see to us as a Ghanaian people be encouraged? And you see, the problem is that it is not as if people are not practicing gay, and
I was going to
they
say
are practicing. But what we are saying is that do not come and flaunt us on our faces. That is what we are saying.
But so in that case, what do you need this act for? Because there are provisions in the criminal and
the act is to come and deepen our stance on this LGBTQ.
What's the point? Because if you visited the Act 29, you'll find that if you have sexual intercourse with, you know, if your natural carnal knowledge of a person or an object and all these things are made available in the criminal
but I think this
act
act
already.
even further, like he says, goes deeper to even explain some of that. This unnatural carnal knowledge you were talking about. I realized that it was also biased towards men, towards women rather. According to the Attorney General's modification, you could tell that it was only favoring women because they defined it. There's a definition in the Act 29 that says that there has to be something, there has to be a level of penetration.
And there's no penetration.
So I guess this act is also enlightening and bringing more, for discussion, you know, and see what we can allow and what we shouldn't allow. So I guess it's necessary to some point. As to whether
they made an exception for the interstate. There's a word that I don't quite remember. The person that the Attorney General makes the argument that it's possible the person was born like that. We shouldn't criminalize it. Not the the person, the hormones, you know, they behave as such. Not that they went to. There's an intersex or so.
Okay.
I think it's intersex.
Is it for a lesbian? Or it's not specific to whether a lesbian, gay,
so
or
you find
bisexual.
a woman behaving like a man.
Those things
so in that
are
case, if you find such a man getting attracted, such a person getting attracted to same sex, are we now going to take the person to the hospital to go and test whether it is the hormones and all of that before we not prosecute it or not? Jimmy, do you understand my question? Because the Attorney General made an exception for that person, those people.
That's why I want to hear the debate, because it's true what she's saying. There are people who are very, very attuned to their feminine side. There are men who are very, very attuned to their feminine side. There's a word for them. I've forgotten.
I mean, the
English
legal word that was described as interstate or so. I find it, but
right. So those people who also have strong feminine hormones, men who have strong feminine hormones. How do we begin to deal with that conversation?
You see, the whole argument is that no one has been able to give us any scientific proof that there is one who is attracted towards somebody by hormones or whatever. I have been calling for this scientific proof. Let's have it and let's look at what it means, because it is just conscience. I believe that it is just conscience and how society shapes your mind that would make you feel attracted towards a female partner rather than that. Because let me have that scientific aspect.
Let me read it to you. So, intersex people are individuals born with any of several sex characteristics, including chromosomes patterns or genitals or to their okay, so this truly is defined by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and it's not fit or typical of the binary notions of male and female bodies.
It's not scientific.
So these are chromosomes. Oh no, chromosome matters are scientific. How did I
no, I'm saying who
the one who defined it.
Of course, before a body will define, they will have to collect the science to define it.
You
I
see,
like to know the source.
I have followed up on this even on the World Health Organization. There is no proper definition and scientific proof that it is the hormones cause that level of attraction. I can authoritatively say that our society shapes our mind better than hormones. It is the society and the culture and the way you live in and the way you are brought up in that culture system and the value system that shapes your mind. Yes, biology. It's stronger than biology, and it shapes your mind as to how to live. You cannot say that your hormones are attracted towards using gun and shooting people. Our society shape up your mind that you should see your fellow human being as human. You can't pull gun that you want to shoot somebody because your hormones tells you to. You see,
actually, mental health, and it is because you know that you would be arrested and prosecuted. That's why you're not pulling the gun. But it's not because, you know. But anyway, Akins maybe.
But largely,
so I get attracted to Akins, and suddenly it is wrong. Yeah.
Okay, let's see how. Because I think the Attorney General has reshaped it and made it, I won't say is lenient, but has made it in a way that if people still have a cause to argue, they can find lawyers to be able to argue their feelings and their points under certain types of laws, you know. But let's not have a repetition of what you would find in the Criminal and Offences Act also showing up in the bill that, yes. But anyway, so how did we arrive at, did you ask the youth organizer how the speaker arrived at the NP that was headed to Parliament and didn't get to Parliament? Our time is up, actually.
You know, I think that issue was...
Briefly, if you can, in a minute.
Yes, that issue was settled by the speaker in his pronouncement on the floor of Parliament, that when you look at their standing orders, I think standing order 114 clearly state that in situations where members of Parliament are incapacitated, right, the speaker is allowed to send in whips, okay, to ascertain the facts of the matter. And once those facts of the matter are ascertained, and then it is really established that the member of Parliament is incapacitated, he or she is counted as being present or a member of the House at that particular time. Yeah. And so that was what the Speaker of Parliament did, you know, on the floor of Parliament that day. And so there's nothing wrong that has been done by anybody, you know. Yes.
There's no law broken.
There's no law broken on that.
Okay. Anyway,
this
question was specific to him because.
Okay. Oh, I mean, if you can in a minute, we'll be very grateful.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the position we are as a country now clearly shows how economy is failing. It clearly shows government financial situations and all that, and the need for funds to be able to run this country. It has clearly also indicated that we have not been able to reduce tax and shift our economy to production as we were promised that we are coming to reform our economy and focus on production, reducing taxes and all those kind of things. So we should critically be mindful of our expenses. We should critically be mindful of what we do from now. And the government cannot finance all projects at this moment. Let's do the priority ones and focus on the ones that can easily give us returns so that we can tackle the other ones. New projects shouldn't be initiated. Let's look at the existing ones, those ones we've left in the bush, the school buildings that is uncompleted.
Please write it out and give it to
one down, one A.
Please write it down. Write it down.
We focus on now.
Akins, can you hear him? So because you are quite close to the youth organizer,
I believe that
who's close to government.
And let me also say that we are young. This is the state we find ourselves in. No Ghanaian should give up. I believe that we can return our economy back to track. So let's keep.
I really
Jimmy
like
for
you,
president
Jimmy. I
now.
tell you, Jimmy. Ekins, you see, he
Okay,
wasn't argumentative at all.
Yeah.
Very, very calm and very collected. Jimmy, thank you so much.
This is not the typical Akis.
You know, he said, Ekins, thank you very much,
Thank you
Jimmy.
so
Guys,
much,
thank you
Ekins.
so much.
You're gonna have
We'll
some
you
rest. You had a long
All right,
weekend.
guys, that's about it. Let's get ready for Motivation Monday, shall we?
How you guys doing?
See, some people just they like to provoke. Bro, tell them give me.
Congrats, man. I heard your sister just gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. And I said no. And he said, so what did she give birth to? I said a fish. Catfish.
What kind of provoking be this? Come and let's have an uncontrollable laughter with the big boy himself, Basket Mouth, for the Easter comedy show Basket Mouth Unprovoked at 7 p.m. on the 8th of April at the Accra International Conference Center, along with Bucci, Obi, Lexi the Comic, and Starumanus. Performing on the night, High Life Sensation, Asantewa, and the Smooth Crooner, Kwabena. Tickets are selling for 300 Ghana Cedis regular and 500 Ghana Cedis VIP at Frankie's Osu, Accra Mall, and Batuna Total Spintex. Call 0247-415-468 for ticket reservations and delivery. Tickets are also available at veetickets.com.